something frightening is happening in Germany.
It must be clear to us as a country, we're in one of the most challenging phases of our recent history.
What we see in the data, if we take a closer look, is that companies are telling us the current business situation is really flat. It's not changing. It continues to be weak.
The biggest problem is that Germany has no growth. So for the last 2 years, the country has not only not had any growth, it has had 2 years of a contraction. So the economy has actually shrunk in that time.
Here in Germany, concern is growing over the country's automotive industry. That's one of the key sectors of the German economy. The VW Group, Europe's biggest car maker, has reported a third quarter loss of more than €1 billion.
For decades, Germany was the economic engine of Europe, the country that could build anything, export everything, and outcompete everyone. But today, that engine is misfiring. GDP has stalled at zero growth. Factories are slowing down. Energy costs are suffocating industry. And the very model that made Germany rich, exports, industry, precision, is starting to crack. So what went wrong in the country that once defined efficiency itself? Let's rewind. For years, Germany was the backbone of Europe, the reliable powerhouse that kept the continent running. Its economy, worth over $5 trillion, was fueled by exports of cars, machinery, and chemicals, the kind of high-quality goods the world couldn't get enough of. But lately, demand has dried up. By the third quarter of 2025, the German economy didn't grow at all. 0% GDP growth, after already shrinking earlier in the year. Only 2 other major EU countries, Italy and Finland, saw similar declines. And that's not the Germany the world is used to. Behind those numbers is a bigger story. One that feels less like a slowdown and more like a shift. The first crack appeared when energy prices exploded after the war in Ukraine.
In Germany, heating oil prices leapt by almost 77% in September compared to last year. And prices for natural gas in Europe have skyrocketed over 420% in the last year, 420%.
Russia had been Germany's biggest energy supplier, and when those pipelines went silent, so did the country's advantage. Suddenly, the land that built BMWs and Mercedes-Benz was paying some of the highest energy costs in the developed world. For a nation whose wealth depends on industrial power, that's like cutting off oxygen to the lungs. But high energy prices were only the beginning, because even if Germany could pay its bills, it couldn't fill its factories. A silent demographic time bomb has been ticking for decades. In the 1960s, Germany had 6 working-age people for every retiree. Today, it's barely 2 to 1. And when the workforce shrinks, the entire system starts to wobble. Companies can't find enough skilled labor, electricians, engineers, technicians. Job vacancies stay open for months, and projects stall before they even begin. It's not that Germans forgot how to work, it's that there simply aren't enough of them left to keep the machine running. To fill the gaps, Berlin turned to immigration, but bureaucracy slowed everything down.
What we need right now is specific deregulation for small and medium enterprises, as those often cannot handle the bureaucracy that has been piling up in the last couple of years.
Getting a work visa in Germany can take longer than the actual job lasts. Businesses call it office mold. German bureaucracy, once a symbol of order, has become an obstacle. Companies now face rigid labor rules and excessive red tape, making it nearly impossible to adapt quickly. It's why global investors are quietly looking elsewhere. Because when opportunity knocks, Germany tells it to come back after the paperwork clears. Still, bureaucracy alone doesn't break a country. The real problem is that Germany's economic model was built for a world that no longer exists. For decades, its secret weapon was exports. In August 2025, German companies exported 129.7 billion euros worth of goods, more than most countries produce in an entire quarter. But here's the catch. Exports are falling. The trade surplus, once 21.9 billion euros a year earlier, has dropped to 17.2 billion euros. And it's not just about numbers, it's about identity. Germany built its reputation on being the best at what it does: precision cars, machinery, industrial excellence. But suddenly, that reputation is being challenged by competitors who don't play by the same rules. Enter China. China has gone from Germany's customer to its rival, especially in the automotive sector.
A new phrase is popping up among German car executives: China speed. That's how fast they feel they need to move to catch up to the Chinese car industry that's grown into a battery-powered juggernaut.
Electric vehicles, once seen as a niche, are now the future. And while German automakers debate and delay, Chinese brands are flooding global markets with cheaper, faster, and increasingly better EVs. In 2019, German industry employed nearly 8 million workers. Since then, it's lost almost 250,000 jobs. Factories that once exported cars and machines are now exporting layoffs. And as competition rises, so do costs. Inflation, once Germany's worst historical fear, has crept back. In September 2025, it hit 2.4%, the highest rate of the year. Unemployment has climbed to 6.3%, the highest since 2020. And for the first time in years, Germany is no longer Europe's unstoppable engine. It's becoming Europe's warning sign. But even as the economic gears slow down, the government is spending like it's still in overdrive. Berlin recently approved a 500 billion euro special fund, financed through loans, to invest in infrastructure, defense, and climate protection. It's a bold move, but also a desperate one, because Germany's welfare state is already enormous. It spends 31% of its GDP, roughly 1.3 trillion euros, on social programs, one of the highest levels in the developed world. Even Chancellor Friedrich Merz has admitted it's not sustainable, and yet cutting it would risk unrest in a country already on edge. So here lies the paradox. Germany is borrowing to invest in a future it can barely afford, to preserve a system that no longer works the way it used to. And that's where the real fear begins. Because this isn't just an economic slowdown, it's a slow-motion transformation of everything Germany thought it was. The industrial miracle that rebuilt Europe after World War II is now weighed down by its own success. The systems that once ensured stability, welfare, regulation, cautious spending, are now the same systems strangling growth. But here's the eerie part. Germany isn't collapsing. Not yet. It's stuck, frozen in a kind of economic limbo. And that's far more dangerous, because when a nation stands still, the world moves around it. Look east. China is racing ahead with state-backed energy and EV production. Look west. The US is reinventing its industry through subsidies and onshoring. Look south. Even smaller European economies are reforming faster. Meanwhile, Germany debates paperwork reform. It's not that the country doesn't know what's wrong, it's that fixing it means rewriting its DNA. So the question becomes, can Germany evolve before the world leaves it behind? Some economists still see light ahead. They predict a modest recovery by 2026, maybe 1.3% growth, inching up to 1.4% in 2027. But those are cautious hopes, not confident forecasts. Because the challenges ahead aren't cyclical, they're structural. An aging workforce can't be rebooted overnight. A dependency on exports can't be replaced with domestic demand in a year. And rebuilding industrial competitiveness in a green, digital, post-Russian energy world, that's a marathon. Yet maybe, just maybe, Germany still has one advantage left: resilience. This is a nation that's rebuilt itself from ashes before, that turned division into unity, scarcity into innovation, and crisis into strength. It's easy to count the losses, the jobs, the exports, the growth, but harder to measure the quiet transformations happening beneath. Factories investing in automation to survive, startups emerging in energy tech and green manufacturing, small towns experimenting with retraining programs to fill the skilled labor gap. They don't make headlines, but they're the sparks that could ignite something new. Because maybe this isn't the end of the German miracle. Maybe it's the painful beginning of its next chapter. Still, that's an optimistic view. And optimism is something Germany is running short on. Public confidence is dropping. Business insolvencies have surged to 11,900 this year, the highest in a decade. And each closure isn't just a statistic. It's a story of families, livelihoods, and fading dreams. You can feel it in the air, a kind of collective unease. Not panic, not chaos, just uncertainty. As if the country is holding its breath, waiting for something to give. Because when an economy like Germany stalls, it doesn't just affect factories and workers, it ripples through all of Europe. The Eurozone's stability depends on Berlin's strength. If Germany can't pull its weight, the whole continent feels lighter, and not in a good way. So, where does that leave the world's third largest economy? Caught between what it was and what it needs to become. It's no longer enough to be the manufacturer of the past. Germany must decide what kind of power it wants to be in the future. Does it double down on tradition, the cars, the factories, the old systems, or does it reinvent itself for a world that's already moved on? Because that's the frightening truth about what's happening in Germany. It's not a sudden crash, it's a slow erosion of confidence, competitiveness, and clarity. And the scariest part isn't that Germany might fail, it's that it might simply fade. So the question isn't whether the German economy can recover, it's whether it can rediscover what made it great in the first place. Because if it can't, then for the first time in modern history, the world's most reliable engine might finally stall for good. And if that happens, who keeps Europe running? If you got value from this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And don't stop here. Click the video on your screen for another deep dive into economics. See you there.